Hello and welcome to this vlog. My name's Tony Oliver. I'm the Governor of HMP Hull. Delighted and honoured to be asked by HMPPS Insights to talk a little bit about comms at Hull Prison. So I have introduced a blog that introduces this vlog that talks in much more detail about my initial blog. So hopefully you're keeping up so far. My initial premise in talking about communications at Hull using this medium is that undoubtedly there's been lots of brilliant communications going on by many colleagues, many governors, senior leaders across the prison service and National Probation Service. And secondly, I'm not a professional blogger. I'm not a professional TV presenter. I'm a jobbing prison governor. So what comes across is what you get. And actually in the background with some of the really good stuff that I'm going to talk about in a bit more detail in terms of that finished product on a weekly basis is lots of stuff that goes on in the background by a brilliant design and print team, my editor, cameraman, producer, film crew, all those kind of things really makes it come together. But this is far beyond just gimmickry, where images, the Insights logo can be on screen. Key messages that I would routinely talk about during the week can come up on camera, just as that reminder of those key notes. For example, around social distancing we've used very often, keeping safe, personal hygiene, maintaining stability, all those kind of things can be just up as a reminder to in effect, the listeners to my weekly blog. Just backtracking somewhat, the two catalysts for looking at the way we can communicate with prisoners, with staff, with families and friends, other partners, two catalysts. I had the really good fortune as part of the 10 Prisons project to have an executive coach. One of the strands of that was around improving leadership capability. So a massive shout out to Angela Sabin, who just encouraged me to look differently at how we can use different mediums, vlogs, blogs, rather than just the standard notices that we all know and understand in the prison service. And also probably about 12 months ago, we were doing some collaborative work with the National Health Service around more accessible information, particularly for prisoners, how we can present induction information, first night centre information in a much more accessible, understandable way. And that really got me thinking together with the team around, could we use technology, social media in a better way than we had done previously. Twitter, other social media was absolutely unknown to me. I was not a part of the Twitterati, didn't blog, but actually over time that's been a really useful way of getting some of those key messages across. So thinking about how can we communicate more effectively, reaching out to everybody, being more accessible and understandable, ideally making that a two-way process. But actually that supplements that written word, staff briefings, my full staff meetings, all those kind of things. But actually as we entered the COVID crisis around about March of this year, that actually brought all this into focus. A lot of that work we were planning to do already brought that into focus. How do we make better use, more effective use of the design and print shop, the existing staff expertise that we already had in place. And from that, HTV, Hull Television, was born in effect. That can and is piped into every prisoner's cell on in-cell television, into staff offices. So I can routinely provide information, very up-to-date, live information if necessary, or pre-records, and repeat that as often as is necessary to get some of those key messages across. The design and print shop team that actually pull all this together, do all this whizzy stuff, can put logos on if I require. The background to the studio is just fantastic stuff and enhances, doesn't replace, but enhances the stuff I talk about on a regular basis as part of my weekly vlog. They've developed their broadcasting, their editing skills, looking at how we can improve signage, all that kind of stuff, including accredited qualifications through Hallgate and the team of instructors. Real employment outcomes for prisoners on release. We've had some prisoners go out and get jobs based on the skills and the expertise they've got here. So my weekly blog is a way of getting across some of that information using this whatever wizardry and gadgetry that's available to us. So, you know, the current key messages around preserving life, around maintaining security, stability and safety, providing sufficient capacity, just that constant reminder to my staff and to prisoners and to partners about what's really important from HMPPS, from the Yorkshire Prison Group and from me as the governor of this establishment. One of the things that I have routinely invited during the COVID restrictions is asking both staff and prisoners to ask me a question. So cards are issued, staff, prisoners routinely ask me a question, and on a weekly basis I undertake to respond to those as directly and as clearly as possible. Each and every one, as far as practical, I send a visual, verbal response to. And I get that feedback when I'm going around the prison from both staff and prisoners about how well that's going. More recently, we've invited the Ask the Governor questions to family and friends of prisoners. Through social media, that was invited. I got a number of questions and again responded on a discrete vlog to respond to those questions. And that's been a really helpful feedback, and hopefully they found that helpful as well. It's also helpful in terms of the national framework, so those stages that we're beginning to work through, currently at stage 4, how can we work through to stage 3 and beyond? So lots of that activity going on now with my team and other stakeholders developing those exceptional delivery models and all the other products that underpin and sit behind those EDMs. On screen, I just want us to talk about some of those other things that happen, because this isn't just about me presenting that information. I always wanted this to be two-way, to involve others. So others, some of my senior leaders, partners have made discrete short videos around what's happening and getting that information out to both staff and prisoners. So the first one is a Q&A session that we invited quite early on from one of our PID workers at the time, with Governor Lindsay, my head of residence services, just going through some of those questions, routine questions that prisoners would want to ask, and Governor Lindsay would be able to answer, but actually up close and personal, but in a very visual way. Secondly, we were one of those very fortunate sites to have video calls set up quite early on in this COVID pandemic. So I was able to, with Governor Watters, my head of operations, talk about video calls, introduce the video call suites to staff and to prisoners here, so they got a sense before they actually went live what that might look like. Lots of information for them and their families, how to apply through Purple Visits to get online, etc. The next example, I was really fortunate to be able to sit down in conversation with Paul Forweather, the Prison Group Director for the Yorkshire Prison Group, and as it were, have a conversation and get a view from the top, as it were. So Paul was able to give, in a very candid way, a view from a national view. My roving reporter, my alter ego on a weekly basis, has also been reaching out there and The next example is about the work that's been going on in our industries complex. Instructors, whilst they've not been able to cover lots of the workshops because they've been closed for very clear reasons, have not sat by. They've been really busy and transformed the industries complex here at the prison. And here's just an example of Jorge from the print shop, Colin from the Woodfellows woodwork shop, refurbishing one of the corridors, and actually I think doing a fantastic piece of work there. Similarly, the roving reporter was able to go into the gym, where that work has been undergoing in a similar way, refurbishing the gym facility, the weights room, the sports hall. So I was able to talk to one of my PIs, Pat, and he explained on screen for our service users, both staff and prisoners, because it's a very active gym ordinarily, about some of the work that's being on there, and actually transformed the sports facility. And finally, I invited a member of staff who's been doing some work, one-to-one work, some guitar lessons with a prisoner on one of the wings, and they came onto screen recently and did a bit of a pre-Glastonbury guitar session, which again I think was really well received, and we just demonstrated that really effective staff-prisoner relationship, but in a very visual, impactful way. And that's what we've been able to do by using HTV in this way. I think finally for me, I just wanted to give a massive shout out to all HMPPS staff, many genuinely #hidden heroes, the brilliant Insights team, but actually as well to welcome you not to my Wizzy studio, but actually to Studio 7, where we've set up a dedicated filming facility, in the background all kinds of Wizzo stuff. And also I would really like to welcome the man behind the scenes who makes all this happen, is David. Welcome David, thank you for that very brief appearance on screen. I'm going to finish this blog by a bit of that traditional blooper that you'll get on some TV programmes. This is when David actually nearly burnt the prison down by playing around in the studio. So we'll finish with that. Thank you for listening.
So I just want to say thanks for listening and thanks for tuning in. Cheers guys.